Chapter 71 Terumi Mei, Come and Fight Him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After letting it sink in, the massive difference in raw power between us and that ghost lantern full moon prick hit me like a ton of bricks. Terumi Mei's face just dropped, she sighed, like she was throwing in the towel. I'm just saying, we gotta figure out how to get out of here. Even if he's a total psycho bent on destroying everything, we can't take him. The Ghost Lantern Clan's secret techniques. Forget about it in this environment, they're almost impossible to counter. Uchiha Ci shook his head, narrowed his eyes, and stared at Ghost Lantern Full Moon, who was patching himself up with some water healing jutsu. The guy looked absolutely livid, and his bloodlust was thick enough to cut with a knife, but the subtitles still weren't popping up in front of my eyes. Understanding what that meant, Uchiha Ci looked a little weird and patted Mei on the shoulder. It's cool. I believe in you. Huh? What's that supposed to mean? Terumi Mei asked, surprised and blushing. Seriously? Now's the time for that. But Uchiha Ci just pointed at the scowling Ghost Lantern Full Moon and told Mei, all confident like, Terumi Mei, go fight him. Terumi Mei blinked, looked up at Uchiha Ci, totally blank. Did I hear him wrong, or is this guy messing with me? Me? Against Ghost Lantern Full Moon? With what? Uchiha took a deep breath and said, real serious, Kirigakure isn't my home. I can't exactly step into your shoes and solve your problems for you. But, I can tell you what to do. Uchiha Ci's face darkened, and he said grimly, assassinate the third Mizukage, overthrow the government, and seize power. That's just step one. After that, you gotta strong-arm the daimyo. Doesn't matter if you kill him or replace him, just stabilize the finances. Then, start a war and loot the outside world. Redirect the conflict outward, then crush any rebellion with an iron fist. Shake things up. Build a nation that revolves around your will. If we can't even do that, Kirigakure's just gonna keep spiraling. Uchiha's clear voice faded, and the room went silent. Terumi Mei, Ghost Lantern Full Moon, even the 5 ninja maintaining their water escape and Kirisame, they all stared at Uchiha Ci, shocked. Hearing just the first sentence, they thought Uchiha's statement was nothing more than that. After all, from the Warring States period to the present, this is how the power struggles of major forces have been done, including Kirigakure, who now represents the will of all ninjas, and a group of elders, who represent the interests of the blood family. What they want to do is nothing more than this. But starting from the second sentence, the meaning of the words took a 180-degree turn. Use the power of ninja to control the daimyo and the economy of the entire country. This is an unthinkable approach for everyone living in the current ninja world. It is a complete treason. Ninja, from the beginning of its birth, has been a profession that relies on accepting tasks and completing commissions. Let this group of people with superb martial arts control a country. Can they do it? Terumi Mei and Anato Mangetsu couldn't help but think about this issue. As for the other 5 chasing ninjas, their expressions under the masks changed drastically. One of the older chasing ninjas immediately shouted at the Ghost Lamp Full Moon. Man, you, kill him. Kill this rebellious maniac. If the daimyo gets to know this kind of news, it will bring disaster to Kirigakure. Once the daimyo is banned, this country will immediately fall apart, attracting the other 4 countries to attack and carve up the water country. Don't even think about this kind of thing. Quick, kill him. However, Goe Dang Man you did not move, but frowned slightly and looked up at Uchiha Ci. Terumi Mei, who was standing next to Uchiha Ci, also looked sideways at him, wanting to hear how he should answer this question. The establishment of the one country one village system has its own significance, just like the relationship between the Fire Country and Konoha. Konoha can only be regarded as a larger armed group in the Fire Country, but Konoha is not the only choice for the Country of Fire. As long as the money is available, other non-Konoha ninja clans in the country, as well as ninja villages and ninja clans in other countries, can definitely serve the Country of Fire. For example, in the future, the reason why Sunigakure betrayed Konoha and jointly attacked Konoha with Otogakure was because the Kingdom of Wind often hired Konoha ninjas to steal Sunigakure's mission work. Uchiha took over the task of the daimyo of the Land of Thunder, guarding Hell Valley and guarding the blood. Pawn clan, and it was the same reason, to subvert a country, it may not only face a counterattack by the daimyo forces, but also a terrifying crusade for the entire ninja world, driven by the collective efforts of the daimyo from all over the world to make money. Therefore, it is basically unrealistic for the ninja village to seize control of a major country through an armed coup. It is too risky and has disadvantages but no benefits. This is also the consensus among today's ninjas. However, Uchiha Ci shook his head, looked at the chasing ninja over there, and sneered. If you're talking about the four great nations, wind, fire, earth, and lightning, then sure, you're right. But you're Kirigakure. You're an island nation, isolated overseas, surrounded by the ocean and natural defenses on all sides. Hearing that, everyone was a little stunned. He kinda has a point, doesn't he? The water country's geography is totally different. It's easy to defend, hard to attack. Aside from a few key ports where the land's relatively flat, most of the island is towering peaks. As long as Kirigakure holds those docks in key locations, crossing the ocean to conquer Hidden Mist Village and carve up the water country would be a nightmare. Then, Uchiha Ci looked at Terumi Mei, dead serious, and said in a low voice, I remember you saying you've got goals for your hometown that you have to achieve. You think there's a better path for your home. You think the system's broken. Since you love this place so damn much. Then just do it. Whatever it takes, take the plunge. Even if it ends up in flames or a total train wreck. Even if the guy standing in front of you is a demon hellbent on destroying Kirigakure, a goddamn master swordsman, he can be your strength. This is your fight. Uchiha Ci locked eyes with her, pointed at Ghost Lantern Full Moon, and told Terumi Mei solemnly. Ever since you declared war on me that night, I knew you were hungry to be on the main stage in the ninja world. Now, one of the most talented people in the entire ninja world is right here in front of us. Truthfully, I'm not sure I can beat him. I can't even guarantee I can cover your escape. But, I'll fight to the bitter end to try and get you out of here. After that, Uchiha's eyes narrowed, he drew his ninja sword, gripped the handle with both hands, and said without looking back. It's your call what happens next. I trust you. He wasn't about to forget Ghost Lantern Full Moon had that secret scroll of the 7 ninja swords. Summon those swords, and he can kick it into high gear, not even counting going full-on shark mode. A measly sealing jutsu isn't gonna hold a powerhouse like that. Uchiha sees shuriken, ninjutsu, taijutsu, swordsmanship, even forbidden arts. They're all firing on all cylinders. But they can't even scratch a guy who basically ignores physical damage when he's serious. It's a whole new level of hopeless, but that's okay. Even in this crazy situation, Uchiha Ci still has teammates, thanks to the adoptive fathers for their monthly votes, and thanks to the gentlemen for their recommendation votes. Please collect, recommend, and read. Bang bang bang. Chapter 72 Remarks on the Launch. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's coming out this Friday, so keep an eye out for it. I'm really hoping you guys will subscribe. Thanks a bunch. Knock knock knock. Chapter 73 Exploding Water and Waves, Water Blades Swirling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the dimmest corner of the hall, Madara Uchiha, leaning heavily on his cane, raised an eyebrow at Uchiha's brazen proposal. Assassinate the Mizukage, stage a coup, control the daimyo, and start a war. He chuckled, you're a real piece of work, kid. Madara seemed to see a younger version of himself reflected in the boy's eyes, but his face quickly turned serious. Talk is cheap. Power isn't just about wanting something, it's about making it happen. If you don't understand that, all those big ideas will just get you hurt. Baiju, standing beside him, grinned. Master Madara, it's been ages since you've shown this much interest in someone. Are you thinking about adding him to your watch list? Madara glanced toward the arena, activated his sharingan, scrutinized Uchiha Ci, and frowned. We'll see. He hadn't seen such a bizarre expression since the Warring States era. The kid was clearly scared witless, yet his eyes and body screamed for a fight to the death. And it wasn't just regular courage, it was a weird mix of craven fear and a death wish, all crammed into one person, and all this coming from a scrub with just 2 tomo on his sharingan. he couldn't figure out if the kid was a total loser or had untapped potential. Meanwhile, in the arena, Terumi Mei walked through the water, staring at Uchiha Ci's back. The indoor rain drummed around them, of course. She knew Uchiha Ci was just another pawn in this Kirigakure civil war, but here he was, standing between her and danger, declaring he'd fight to the bitter end to save her. Just moments ago, he'd been cursing and taunting her, trying to distance himself. Terumi Mei's mind raced, then, a smile crept across her face. She couldn't help but grin at the kid. What an honest-to-God idiot. Her expression hardened, and she stepped forward. Her sharp, green eyes scanned Ghost Lantern Man Yu and the 5 pursuing ninja, instantly calculating the odds. Even at her age, Terumi Mei, the future 5th Mizukage who would end the Blood Mist regime, was no one to mess with. "Ci," Terumi Mei said, her voice low and serious, "I've got 4 chakra types. Lightning isn't my best, but I've got some tricks up my sleeve. I'll handle Ghost Lantern Full Moon. You need to disrupt their water jutsu, otherwise, things will get a lot worse. This is a gamble. We have to trust your hunch is right. Otherwise, if they get enough water to let Ghost Lantern Full Moon pull off that secret technique, we're toast." "Got it," Uchiha nodded, fixing the 5 chasing ninja with a cold stare. He knew the jutsu Terumi Mei was talking about, water release, Great Water Massachusetts. If enough water was present, Ghost Mangetsu could use it and become a Gundam pilot, driving a giant water monster the size of the Eight Tails' complete form. They wouldn't even need to pull out the 7 ninja swordsman scroll. It would be game over. Receiving Uchiha's confirmation, Terumi Mei's eyes sharpened, and she began weaving hand signs, Boar Snake Ram, water release, hiding in mist technique. She exhaled, and a thick fog billowed out, engulfing the hull. Hidden in the mist, she snatched a kunai from Uchiha Ci's pouch, made a boar seal, and infused it with water fong blade, hurling it at Ghost Lantern Full Moon. Suddenly, Terumi Mei leaped into the air behind the thrown water blade, weaving more signs, gathering chakra at her throat, and unleashed a torrent of water towards the ground, slamming into Ghost Lantern Full Moon. Water release, exploding water wave. Ghost Lantern Man Yu smirked. The chasing ninja in the distance laughed, one even taunting, "Terumi Mei, have you lost it? Using a water blast against Mangetsu, who can turn into water. You're just asking for it." Terumi Mei sneered, "How about this?" She wove signs again, pumping in chakra despite the drain from Chiyu, conjuring lightning in her hands, and slammed it into the exploding water wave. The electricity from her lightning jutsu coursed through the water and struck towards Ghost Lantern Full Moon. Boom. The tsunami of water exploded outward, carving up the battlefield. White mist and surging water filled the air. In the whiteness, a pair of scarlet eyes suddenly blazed. Uchiha Ci, prepared for this, channeled chakra into his feet, surfed the waves towards the 5 pursuing ninja at the end of the hall, who were still casting the water release and rain-cutting techniques. With a simple combination with Terumi Mei, they'd created a move like water release, wave riding strike. He leapt into the air, sweeping away shurikens, and hurled them at the chasing ninja. He then used the momentum to spin around, perform a flying sword technique, and shot out his ninja sword. Next, he threw 2 kunai with strings attached, anchoring them to the hull's pillars. He yanked on the strings, changing his trajectory mid-air, drew a semicircle, and came at them from a different angle. He threw more kunai as he landed, twirling a blade, and rushed toward the 5 chasing ninja. Hearing the footsteps, the older ninja raised his head, alarmed. "Careful, that kid's coming. He's on the left." Before he could finish, a shuriken tore through the mist from the right. The older ninja's eyes widened as he slashed with his ninja sword to block. Clang, 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 clang. Sparks flew everywhere, but hidden in the shuriken storm, a ninja sword suddenly slashed through the air. Thunk. It pierced his throat, cutting off his scream. Clang. "You bravely attacked a chunin who thought you were arrogant. Heart upgrade, water, 100%, you have mastered the changes in the properties of water attribute chakra. You have learned, water release, water cutting technique, introduction, C. The remaining 4 ninja stared, dumbfounded, as Uchiha Ci charged from the left, but time was running out. One shouted, "I'll keep up the secret technique." You guys take out this kid, that the other three nodded, bracing themselves in the water, and pulled out their hands. They brandished chakra whips. Crack, the ends of the three whips snapped, creating sonic booms, and suddenly wrapped around Uchiha Ci, boxing him in. Water release, water whip. The whips of water bound the enemy and restricted his movement. The effect was powerful, but Uchiha Ci didn't dodge. He grabbed a kunai from his pouch and charged forward. He saw the three whips of water in his sights, and quickly weaved hand signs. Haram snake. Water release, water fong blade. The water blade ignited. After fully mastering the changes in water properties, this water blade became more condensed and sharper. The water within the blade spun fiercely at a terrifying speed, creating an eerie sound. Then, Uchiha Ci slashed, drawing an arc like the moon. Thanks to the adoptive fathers for their monthly votes, and thanks to the gentlemen for their recommendation votes, please collect, recommend, and read, bang, 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 Chapter 74, There is a new way out for the strong flying sword technique. The sharingan is copied. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 74, Sharingan, Copycat Technique, a new angle for the flying sword. Uchiha shifted his stance, planted his feet, and swung the water release blade. A Uchiha-style strike sliced through the air, instantly severing the three long whips. He crouched low, flicked his wrist, and launched the water fong blade. The three pursuers were caught off guard by Uchiha's sudden water fong blade toss. A standard kunai, transformed into a deadly projectile, seeing the swirling water blade crackling with energy. They panicked and scattered, dodging like startled birds. Uchiha's eyes lit up, as if he'd stumbled upon a new path. This kick-ass brick-as a flying sword technique, combined with the ability to conjure blades at will, gotta admit, these kunai are damn useful. He quickly whipped out another kunai, sealed it, and created another water fong blade, giving chase with the knife in hand. The three pursuers cursed under their breath. All this kid does is throw kunai. And now he's doing it with ninjutsu, too. Seriously, dude, you're no ninja at all. They wove hand seals as they ran, preparing to unleash a powerful attack on Uchiha, but they didn't realize, Uchiha, who was supposedly behind them, was now standing directly in their path. He balanced on a sphere of water, leaned back, pulled a dark silk thread taut with both hands, and shot across the water like an arrow. Water release, water cutting technique. A water-style ninjutsu that concentrates water flow under the feet for rapid gliding. Even on dry land, it simulates the effect of skating. With Terumi Mei's transformation of the terrain into a water battlefield, this move greatly enhanced his mobility, landing in front of and behind the three. Uchiha kicked out a water blade with a leg sweep, flipped through the air, and drew his water fong blade, combining taijutsu and kick techniques copied from Kakuzu with a water sword enhanced with water release, water fong blade, swordplay, and chakra infusion. He swiftly cut through the three, leaving a swirling slash in his wake. The blade fell, and a blue crescent moon shimmered. Two of the ninjas dropped instantly, the third barely dodged the attack, his face turning grim. He began weaving hand seals, ready to use a ninjutsu of his own, but then, Uchiha locked eyes with him. His sharingan blazed, the tomo spinning wildly, fixing on the pursuer's hand seals and tracing the flow of chakra in his body, mirroring the seals, move for move. Ram, boar, ox, hare, boar, ox, hare. Even faster than the pursuer himself. Damn it, kid, you're dead. The pursuer yelled, raising his hand. Water release, water prison. But a louder shout cut him off. Water release, water prison technique. Uchiha slammed his palm forward, unleashing a water prison technique half a second before the pursuer could finish. A bubble of water erupted from his hand, engulfing the pursuer completely. Gurgle, gurgle. The pursuer's eyes bulged in shock. He choked, swallowed a mouthful of water, and thrashed wildly. He thought, you're a freaking Uchiha. How can you use water release better than us, Mist Shinobi? Where's your fire release? Did you swallow it? Uchiha sighed in relief, wiped the sweat from his brow, his heart pounding. He quickly plunged the water fong blade into the bubble to finish the job. If that loudmouth hadn't blabbed, his Magatama Sharingan wouldn't have been able to copy the ninjutsu so quickly. that was way too close. Thought I was a goner, good thing I'm just that good. In this environment of water release and mist, all ninjutsu except water release are weakened. And spamming earth release and earth spear would burn through my chakra way too fast. So, I had to gamble, relying on water release and taijutsu to take them down, but this unexpected boost of stamina hasn't only helped me regain my affinity for water, but has given me a deeper understanding of water release as well. What a pleasant surprise. Meanwhile, only one of the original pursuers remained standing, still maintaining the hidden mist technique. He could hear the sounds of fighting outside, followed by a chaotic roar and then, silence. The quiet unnerved him, and a cold sweat broke out on his skin. He could only hope for help from his teammates. Just then, the white mist thinned, a kid covered in what looked like ketchup materialized through the fog, waving his knife and tracing the arc of a shimmering water sword. Why you? The pursuer, still maintaining the jutsu, froze, and cold sweat plastered his back. Terror was etched on his face beneath his mask. He abandoned his water release and hidden mist technique seals and backed away. Uchiha didn't say a word but spun around and disappeared back into the mist. The sound of his footsteps echoed in the pursuer's ears, creating overwhelming psychological pressure, as if a monster lurked in the fog, waiting to devour him. He glanced nervously around, then snapped his head up, yelling, "Mangetsu, help me!" At that moment, a water blade shot out of the mist with explosive force. Across the battlefield, Terumi Mei, drenched in sweat, frantically weaved hand seals and unleashed ninjutsu to keep the demonic Mangetsu at bay. She was a turret-type ninja, blessed with massive chakra reserves and spewing ninjutsu like a machine gun. Water release and lava release attacks poured out in a continuous stream. And in the enclosed space, she could mix her boil release with the surrounding mist for cover. Whether it was effective or not, she was going to keep the pressure on until her chakra ran dry. But then, the sounds of battle and water-cutting technique from the fog suddenly ceased. The two combatants simultaneously looked up, surprised. There were 5 pursuers. No matter how useless they were, they couldn't have been defeated so quickly, right? And how long had it been? A minute, maybe 2. Hozuki narrowed his eyes, plunged into the water, and vanished, suddenly. Uchiha seized the opening and hurled his water knife. He'd already ripped his ninja sword free from the neck of another pursuer. He pulled the thread, skimming the water toward the remaining pursuer, determined to finish this fight and rush to Terumi Mei's aid. But at that moment, bang, starred at a piercing gunshot shattered the air. A high-speed water bullet ripped through Uchiha's water release blade. The kunai was struck, sending the water release blade spinning away. Then, a white-haired figure exploded from the water, aiming to stab Uchiha through the back of the heart. Sensing mortal danger, Uchiha's scalp prickled with fear. Instinctively, he executed a clumsy version of a head and shoulder wrapping move he'd only seen in videos in his previous life, using his back to block the attack. Clang, sparks flew. This kid's reaction time is crazy. Hozuki Mangetsu raised an eyebrow but didn't dwell on it. He used the hydrification technique to amplify his strength, driving the broken blade forward. But thanks to that momentary pause, Uchiha had used Earth Release, Earth Spear to harden the spot on his back about to be struck. With no water release or hidden mist technique to weaken it, the defense power was insane. Clang! Hozuki Mangetsu felt like he'd stabbed a diamond even harder than before. The blade snapped clean in 2. Uchiha seized his chance, slashing his sword down on the remaining pursuer. Turning, he sneered at Hozuki Mangetsu, who stood dumbfounded with the broken sword in his hand. "So you're the prodigy from Kirigakure, huh? What's wrong, haven't you eaten your Wheaties?" Chapter 75, Forced Confrontation, Gundam appears. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As Uchiha's words faded, the area was suddenly clear. All 5 of the hidden mist trackers were down, leaving only Kido Mangetsu from the squad chasing Yagura and trying to intercept Terumi Mei. The downpour stopped as abruptly as it began. The dark clouds over the castle broke, and the raging waves calmed for the moment. A shaft of sunlight pierced through the dome, splintering across the water and the stained glass, bathing the entire hall in light. Madara Uchiha, who had been silently observing, shook his head. All that flashy movement, but his footwork still amateur. Then, his sharingan blazed as he fixed his gaze on Uchiha Ci. Now comes the interesting part. What's your plan against the Hozuki kid? Behind Madara, the third Mizukage, controlled by the Genjutsu, sneered, with just 2 tomo, he probably can't even force Mengetsu to draw his executioner's blade. He's going to be humiliated. Hozuki Mengetsu is the heir I'm grooming for the next Mizukage. He's in a completely different league from this nobody. As he said this, a line appeared below in the hull. The third Mizukage expresses contempt for you. Uchiha Ci froze, startled by the sudden subtitle. He glanced around, relieved to see no one else seemed to notice. He dismissed it as a glitch, though annoyed. This was getting ridiculous. He'd run into like 4 or 5 shadow-level threats in the past 2 days. If this kept happening, especially now, when he needed to rescue Terumi Mei and steer the plot back on course before she decided to off herself, it was just too much. He turned, took a deep breath, and shoved the distractions aside, focusing on the Hozuki Mengetsu in front of him. Mock the enemy in your head, but stay sharp, Mengetsu Hozuki eyed the broken blade in Uchiha's hand, his eyes narrowing slightly. He'd never seen a hardening technique like that. It made earth-style hardening look like child's play. His water-style, water formation pillar was strong enough to pierce just about anything, but it hadn't even scratched the kid. Instead, his ninja blade had shattered. Realizing this, he immediately leaped back, forming his hands into gun shapes. He aimed at the kid's vital spots, preparing to use water release, water gun technique. This was a secret ninjutsu passed down through the Hozuki clan. By shaping their hands like pistols, they could fire concentrated blasts of water that pierced the enemy. No seals, instant, and with incredible piercing power. The second Mizukage, Hozuki Genjutsu, had nearly taken out the third Tsuchikage, Anoki, with a single shot. Bang! 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 4 water bullets ripped through the air. Uchiha Ci's sharingan darted back and forth, trying to track the projectiles, but they were too fast. At close range, his eyes couldn't keep up. He relied on instinct, using earth-style, earth spear to create makeshift barriers where he sensed danger. Thud. 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 The sound was like bullets hitting a steel wall. As the hardening faded, Uchiha Ci snapped into action, forming seals and whipping out a swirling water fang blade, slashing at Hozuki Mengetsu to interrupt another volley of water bullets. At the same time, he glared and shouted, Genjutsu, Sharingan. Hozuki Mengetsu's heart skipped a beat. He broke eye contact and jumped back, partially hydrating the area where the Genjutsu might hit. Uchiha Ci seized the chance, throwing 4 shuriken with his backhand. Then, reversing his grip on the water fang blade, he threw it as well. Thwack. 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 The ninja tools cut through the air, aimed at Hozuki Mengetsu. He followed up with a flying kick, water fang blade chakra coiling around his foot, aimed at the opponent's throat. The barrage of attacks caught Hozuki Mengetsu off guard, forcing him to retreat. Even with partial hydration, several shurikens still managed to nick his arms. This round went to Uchiha Ci, but Uchiha Ci didn't look relieved. His face was grim. He'd only managed to land a blow on Hozuki Mengetsu by relying on his heightened reflexes to compensate for his weaknesses. Mengetsu Hozuki, now forced back, smirked. After that brief exchange, he had this Uchiha brat figured out. The kid had ridiculously fast reflexes, decent shuriken skills, passable taijutsu, and a ridiculously tough earth-style defense. He was good at misdirection and loved to use cheap tricks, annoying as hell, but those strengths couldn't hide the fact that the kid lacked a finishing move. And, Hozuki Mengetsu had spotted a critical weakness. This kid's seemingly invincible hardening technique wasn't perfect. It left him temporarily stiff, and when he used it, his otherwise phenomenal reflexes slowed down. Perfect. Hozuki Mengetsu lowered his stance, his gaze growing colder as he slowly pulled out a scroll from behind. Uchiha Ci's eyes narrowed. He reached for his own scroll, hidden in his leggings, the scroll that sealed the Zero Tails Dark Chakra. Enough power to activate Dark Chakra mode and combine it with Earth Spear for a devastating punch. But then, Terumi Mei stepped in front of Uchiha Ci, blocking him from reaching for the scroll. She grabbed his wrist, her green eyes meeting his. She looked at Uchiha Ci with a serious expression and said, "Not now. You guessed right. Leave this to me." Her tone was firm, her eyes clear. She asked, Uchiha Ci, can you trust me? Uchiha Ci frowned, hesitated, then nodded. Terumi Mei immediately turned, her expression darkening, and called out to Hozuki Mangetsu. That's enough, Hozuki Mangetsu. There's no point in fighting. Hozuki Mangetsu raised an eyebrow, studying Terumi Mei coldly. Meaning? What do you even know about meaning? I'm here to kill you and Yagura, the person you pledged your loyalty to. His face was a mask of indifference. He dismissed the scroll, 7 ninja swordsman scroll, he was holding in his hand. Twin, great, thunder, sever, long, explode, blunt. 7 circular seals blazed into existence. Hozuki Mangetsu clutched the scroll as a wave of water rose beneath him, lifting him upwards. Standing on the platform of water, he looked down at the two of them, his voice like ice. Or did you think you'd win just because you got rid of 5 deadweights? As he finished speaking, the water surged again, building the platform higher and higher, draining all the water from the hull floor. Then, boom, the water platform exploded, and a colossal water monster, over 10 meters tall, erupted from the depths. Its teeth were razor-sharp, its face a grotesque snarl. Every move it made sent tremors through the hull. Dust rained down from the dome. Water style, hydrification technique. The Hozuki clan's secret weapon, a water construct unlike any other, stood before them. Hozuki Mangetsu stood high atop the monster's head, scroll in hand. His singular purple eye stared down at them. The game has just begun. Chapter 76 Kirigakure's Secret, the Pinnacle Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. However, even facing such a terrifying secret technique. Enough. Terumi Mei didn't panic. She stepped forward, her gaze cold as she fixed on Kisame. Then, she snapped, didn't you set us up to kill those 5 tracking ninja on purpose? When I use the explosive water wave to cover the field, you'll have the perfect chance to end this. The water release, black hat removal technique needs a ton of water to work, with the rain pouring down. If Terumi Mei wants to hold Kisame back, she'll mainly use lava release. Other jutsu, including bloodline techniques, would only be support, and the moment Terumi Mei uses water release, or Kisame unleashes a massive water jutsu, this whole thing is over. With the home field advantage and that secret technique, Kisame should be unstoppable. Terumi Mei looked up at Kisame, her voice sharp. But you didn't use it right away. What were you waiting for? For your 5 guys to get wiped out. That she pointed at the 5 dead tracking ninja on the ground. You're so cold. How can you call yourselves tracking ninja with your own comrade's blood on your hands? I thought Uchiha Ci was just spouting nonsense, but you've just proven him right. Kisame fell silent under her accusations. Terumi Mei paused, then continued. Kisame. You're way too eager to know where Yagura is. She stared him down, her voice hard. You're the one who wants to destroy the hidden mist, the blade's master. Kisame finally looked unnerved, his eyes darker than usual. He demanded, what's that supposed to mean? So what if I am? Kisame took a deep breath, trying to sound calm. A tracker with blood on their hands should be ready for this. Kill or be killed, plain and simple. The fact they're dead just proves they weren't good enough to be executioners. Terumi Mei frowned. You think you're the one who is good enough? Then how far would you go to assassinate the 3rd Mizukage? Kisame's face turned to ice, and a flicker of inner conflict flashed in his eyes. This pointless game ends now, Terumi Mei. You're living in a fantasy, totally unprepared for what's coming. Stay in your little bubble and be a pretty face. He fixed his gaze on Terumi Mei. Tell me what Yagura is planning. Terumi Mei didn't react to being called a pretty face. Instead, she finally seemed relieved. Only now, with Uchiha Ci's wild guesses and her own probing, had she managed to corner him into revealing his true intentions. Now that they were sort of on the same side, the crisis was much easier to handle. Terumi Mei inhaled deeply, then said with conviction, Yagura, leader of the Hidden Mist Jonin squad, has enough evidence to take down the 3rd Mizukage. The Hidden Mist is about to enter a new era. We, Lord Yagura, the Genshin elders, and the bloodline families, will unite and continue the policies of the 1st and 2nd Mizukage. Starting with the Ninja Academy, we'll abolish the bloody and repressive policies that have been in place for years. Terumi Mei looked determined, ambitious, and her eyes shone. She told Kisame, no more tracking ninja, no more having to live with the guilt of killing your comrades. And you can serve under the Mizukage again as the next captain of the 7 ninja swordsmen. The elders sent us to find Yugura for that very reason. Oh, Kisame said, his eyes narrowing slightly. Really? Then, his face blank, he said, then take me to Yugura. If he isn't fit to be the 4th Mizukage, I'll kill him myself. Terumi Mei clenched her fists, her face drawn, as she weighed her options for a moment before nodding with reluctance. Okay, but when we get there, you have to accept a sealing jutsu. Whatever. Kisame then turned his blank gaze on Uchiha Ci behind Terumi Mei. In that case. Kisame's voice turned cold, and he revealed his shark-like teeth in a vicious grin. He bit his thumb and formed the summoning jutsu hand signs, boar, dog, bird, monkey, snake. He slammed his hand onto the 7 ninja sword summoning scroll and swiped it across. Double, great, thunder, severing, long, blast, blunt. Asterisk boom. 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 Boom, *.7 plumes of smoke erupted, and 7 differently shaped ninja swords appeared above the giant water monster's head. Kisame drew the thunder sword backhand and threw a kunai that spiraled through the air. He pointed it directly at Uchiha Ci and snarled, Uchiha brat, let's finish this. Uchiha Ci took a deep breath, already expecting this. He stepped around Terumi Mei, moved forward, and drew his ninja sword, gripping the hilt with both hands. He lifted his head slightly and focused. A pair of scarlet sharingan eyes locked onto Kisame standing on top of the giant, his heart pounding at the sight of the monstrosity. His legs were shoulder-width apart, knees bent, ready for the fight. Wait! Kisame! Terumi Mei exclaimed, her eyes wide. What are you doing? But Kisame only shook his head at Terumi Mei, saying indifferently, he can't know about the hidden mists affairs. Then, he looked down at Uchiha Ci, his voice even. Don't worry, I'm just sending him on his way. Isn't that why he came here in the first place? It doesn't really matter if he gets crushed by the monster down in the cave or by me. With that, Kisame pulled the dull sword Kabutawari and the great sword Samahata from the weapon holder and strapped them to his back. He stared down at Uchiha Ci from a height of over 30 feet, his murderous intent skyrocketed. Uchiha Ci took a deep breath and looked up at Kisame standing above the water monster, a wicked grin spread across his face. You think you can kill me? Come and try. In the next instant. He activated the secret technique, Earth Grudge Fear Thread. Dark, tough threads shot out from his wrists, binding tightly to his palms and the hilt of his sword. They then spread upwards along the blade, forming a reverse spiral shape that was narrow at the top and wide at the bottom. Then, he used the last forbidden technique available to him, body transformation. His muscles rippled, forcing a new, massive surge of chakra from his body that was already running dry. He poured every last drop of it into the Earth Grudge Fear thread-wrapped scene, holding the sword with both hands. Water release. Water Fong blade suddenly began to spin wildly. The spiraling water blade grew larger and larger, transforming into a nearly 6-foot-long swirling vortex of water with the infusion of so much chakra. Then, he carefully channeled his swordsmanship and chakra into it, sharpening its edge. Uchiha Ci raised the water blade in his hand, his ultimate sword. He lifted his hand, pointing it directly at Kisame, who stood high above him. Wielding the best sword in the ninja world, he sneered, you think I'm scared? His eyes flared, the corners of his mouth twitching upwards, a cocky grin on his face as he roared. Come on. Let's do this. Terumi Mei watched in stunned silence. As the young man charged, sword raised, directly at Kisame. Chapter 77. The sky has cleared up, the rain has stopped, and Uchiha Ci seems to be doing well again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The colossal water monster roared, its gaze fixed on the sky. The hulking, unstable form straightened abruptly, instantly tearing through the dome and collapsing the castle. Bricks, rubble, shattered beams, and glass rained down, sparkling under the dawn's brilliant sunlight. This looked like utter devastation, impossible to evade, no need for words, just fight. Uchiha Ci spread his hands, gripping his sword in one and reaching behind him with the other, a flick of the wrist, a tug, and a throw. Four shurikens, trailing dark silk threads, shot out and embedded themselves in the hole in the castle roof torn open by the water monster. He grabbed the silk threads, took a couple of steps back, and tightened them. Then, he produced a kunai, tied the ends of the 4 silk threads to its ring, and pinned it through the floorboards and between his feet. Uchiha Ci focused on the 4 lines stretching from the floor to the ceiling. Without hesitation, he flipped and leaped, stepping onto the silk threads angled at almost 70 degrees, and charged upwards. Dodging the heavy falling debris, he weaved across the 4 lines, swinging his sword to clear a path like a plow. The water blade traced moon-like arcs, obliterating anything that stood in its way. Finally, he landed. He stepped onto the edge of the hole in the castle roof, climbed to the top, and stood on the barrel vault. His gaze locked onto Hozuki Mangetsu, standing atop the giant water monster. The tomo in his crimson eyes spun, fixing on his target, calculating his route, and anticipating his opponent's moves. But Uchiha Ci frowned, facing Mangetsu, who carried a blunt knife and a broadsword on his back and wielded a lightning blade. He couldn't imagine what his next move would be. Even during the 4th Great Ninja War, the reanimated Mangetsu, revived by Yakushi Kabuto, only used water release techniques, never touching his swords. And no one sealed him away until the very end. For Uchiha Ci, who possessed the combined intellect of most Kage-level ninjas, Mangetsu was the most frustrating kind of opponent. He was a complete blank slate. Guessing his abilities was all you could do. You could never be sure he wouldn't pull out some crazy new technique at any moment, and there was nothing you could do about it. Ninja battles were battles of wits. Frankly, this was completely different from fighting Kakuzu, a Kage-level powerhouse whose every weakness was laid bare, and now, the only known weakness of his opponent was that lightning release countered his water release. The paralysis from lightning release prevented his body from fully liquefying. Uchiha Ci narrowed his eyes, studying the lightning blade in his opponent's hand, then glanced at the thick clouds overhead. A daring idea sparked in his mind. If he could snatch the lightning blade from Mangetsu, could he use its inherent lightning-attracting ability to recreate that one-handed, 2-pillar technique? Lightning release, Kirin. The 2 pillars of the Kirin technique were clearly described. The reason the technique was labeled with an S-rank difficulty was that the real challenge lay in controlling the lightning's direction and speed, and in preventing yourself from being struck. Uchiha Ci had the sharingan. Seeing the lightning clearly was no problem. He just needed to summon it. As for whether or not he fried himself, that wasn't really a concern. By provoking him with words and cutting down the 5 pursuing ninjas, Uchiha Ci had accomplished what he wanted. He had opened a door for Mangetsu, a chance to contact Yagura and get involved in the Hidden Mists coup. For the child prodigy destined to walk that path, that it was an offer he couldn't refuse. At this point, Terumi Mei's life and death were her own problem, at least until she met Yagura. Mangetsu probably wouldn't attack her again. The pep talk Terumi Mei had reluctantly swallowed was all for this purpose, and with that achieved, Uchiha Ci felt he could finally go all out without holding back. Just do it. Uchiha Ci's eyes narrowed. Standing under the dark clouds and strong wind, he grinned, activated his sonar, and said with a smile. Hey, kid from the hidden mist, ever seen a ninja move that falls from the sky? Mangetsu frowned, wondering what tricks this kid was planning. Having been defeated by Uchiha twice in a row, even losing an eye to his schemes, Mangetsu was now on high alert. He simply summoned Gundam and the best ninja sword in the village. His goal: crush this kid, eliminate all variables in the early stages. With that thought, he raised his hand slightly. The water monster below immediately condensed a giant palm of pure water, raising it high, and swatted at Uchiha Ci like a fly. And that wasn't all. Mangetsu's eyes were cold, and he quickly gathered chakra in the raised palm, condensing it into bullet-like projectiles on his fingertips. Water release, water bullet technique. Boom. 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 The water bullets fired one after another, tracing deadly arcs that blocked every possible escape route. Faced with this intense barrage, Uchiha lowered his body, springing forward, leaping across the bricks of the barrel vault, dodging the swing of the giant palm, grasping his sword in both hands, he faced the water bullets head-on, hardened his skin, and brought the blade down like an axe, aiming straight for Mangetsu's head. Seeing this, Mangetsu grinned. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. After the opponent used hardening, his body would inevitably become stiff, and this was the perfect time to kill him. Meanwhile, on the trembling battlefield, the giant purple tail swept through countless giant trees, creating a massive dust cloud. Orochimaru wielded the Kusanagi blade, his body fluid, the sword extending and retracting, constantly attacking Shinnon from every angle. Shinnon didn't dodge. Despite being stabbed repeatedly, the gaping wounds on his body healed almost instantly. During the attacks, he slammed the ground, lifted a massive boulder, and hurled it at Orochimaru on top of Manda's head. Then, the imposing Rashomon gates rose from the ground. Rumble, not far from the intense battle. In a lush forest reduced to rubble, Uchiha Ci, his eyes bloodshot, raced towards the headquarters of the evil god cult. He carried a massive scroll on his back and wore a high-collared robe with the Uchiha clan's red and white fan emblem emblazoned on it. Ci continuously scanned the road and sky with his sharingan. Debris, giant trees, sand-filled winds, and burning serpent remains rained down from time to time. He didn't know why there was a sudden aftershock from the battle, nor did he care. He gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with hatred and regret. The Tomo in his scarlet sharingan rotated violently, one eye evolving to a triple Tomo. Wait for me, I'm almost there. This time, I won't run, I will definitely save you. Uchiha Ci. Chapter 78 The Rushing Wind. 3 Swords Over. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Perched on the trunk of a massive tree. Captain, are you sure about letting Ci charge in alone? You know what's up ahead. Tang ninjas are all over the place, and there are a bunch of Jonin-level masters. An Uchiha in a black robe frowned, watching Ci's reckless advance. He was worried about the guy's state of mind. Uchiha Fugaku, arms crossed, watched the battle from the tree, his eyes narrowed. Ci's not weak, he just needs a little more guts. He shook his head, adding in a dismissive tone, besides, don't compare some small-time Jonin to the Uchiha clan. Activating his sharingan, Fugaku focused on the battlefield in the distance. He recognized Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin, fighting a formidable opponent, but Orochimaru's presence here meant that the root organization of Tang country was now under his control. He'd asked family members for information, but they refused. Did Orochimaru have another plan for the evil god cult? And what role did that kid, Uchiha Ci, play in all this? After a moment, Fugaku shook his head, waved his hand, and ordered, send 3 after Ci. Only intervene if he's facing a life-or-death situation. The rest of you, search with me and find Uchiha Ci. You've all seen the portrait. You know what he looks like. Point one of the Uchiha nodded. It was the Chunin who delivered the resignation to the police. He muttered, a little annoyed, I can't believe that stinky kid who always did the grunt work stumbled into something this big as soon as he left the village. Tell me about it. My first mission out of the village, I got ambushed by Kirigakure. Another Uchiha chuckled. I saw that guy at the nightclub the other night. Man, was he having a rough time. He was trying to play it cool, asking me about the prices and services. But before he could even finish, the Inuzuka's dog sniffed out his transformation jutsu and he got tossed out on his ear. Laughter rippled through the group, but the chuckling Uchiha's tone turned serious. Well. Hope the little devil's alright, or this will be a waste of time. Hearing that, the Uchiha members went silent, their expressions changed. They split into teams and scattered. 8 pairs of Sharingan eyes activated, scanning for any trace of him. Fugaku's gaze landed on the walls of the evil god cult headquarters in the distance. There, he saw crisscrossing lines, broken bricks and rubble, and a broken cliff with earth and rocks cascading down. On top of the castle, Ghost Lantern Mangetsu glared at him, fired 2 water bullets into the air, then, bracing his feet, leaped back to avoid a slashing attack, and plunged his lightning blade into the water monster's head. Thunder Burial, Thunder Banquet. Blue lightning crackled from the lightning blades, striking Uchiha Ci. Lightning and water bombs rained down simultaneously. Uchiha, hardened against the water iron cannons, sensed danger. He could either endure the remaining water bombs and get hit by the lightning, suffering paralysis and stiffness, or abandon his earth release and harden earth spear, dodging the attacks but losing the opportunity to close the distance. In a split second, Uchiha made a choice. Puff. Puff, water bullets ripped through his flesh, leaving crimson streaks. Uchiha Ci coughed up blood, dropping to his knees. Without hesitation, he slammed his hand on the ground, propelled himself forward, and swung his water blade in a horizontal slash at Ghost Lantern Manyetsu's neck. The spinning blade cleanly decapitated Manyetsu, but the severed head dissolved into a puddle of water, and another head grew back. Ghost Lantern Manyetsu's eyes were emotionless. He raised his lightning blade and said, "I don't know what you're up to. But as long as I keep my body hydrated, I can make all your attacks useless." "But you..." Before he could finish, Uchiha Ci struck again, aiming for Ghost Lantern Manyetsu's wrist, the one holding the lightning blade. If Manyetsu turned the blade into water, Ci could steal the lightning blade and try to induce lightning, but as if reading Ci's mind, Manyetsu smirked. His hydrated body solidified. He reversed his ninja sword, blocking Uchiha's attack. He mocked, "Trying to steal my blade? Do you really think your swordsmanship is that good? Enough talk. Die!" Uchiha retorted, slashing with his backhand. Clang. 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 Swords clashed, sending sparks flying. The blades drew cold arcs in the white mist, and the scarlet eyes traced lines of blood in the air. Ghost Lantern's eyes were icy. Relying on his complete hydration, he focused only on attacking, slashing at Uchiha's body. His swordsmanship had become twice as deadly. Uchiha Ci, with his basic swordsmanship, could see the opponent's attacks but couldn't block them. Falling prey to Manyetsu's superior technique, he was forced to use hardening to block the blows. Clang. Another sword struck his hardened skin. Ghost Lantern Manyetsu's eyes narrowed. He stepped forward, abandoning his hydration, and his body solidified. He kicked Uchiha Ci in the chest, creating distance. He crossed the lightning blades in his hands, unleashing a ball of blue light. Thunder release, Thunder Fong. The air crackled with electricity, spreading in all directions. Uchiha Ci, still hardened and stiff, couldn't dodge the attack. His body went numb, his pupils shrank, and he realized his mistake. He quickly channeled his chakra, using Earth Release and Earth Spear to harden his entire body. Ghost Lantern Manyetsu gave him no time to react. He followed up with Thunder Release, Explosive Thunder, raising his blades to summon a lightning bolt from the sky. Dark clouds rolled in. Boom. Lightning struck Uchiha Ci. Then, Ghost Lantern Manyetsu drew the blunt knife Kabutawari from behind. He struck the hardened skin created by Uchiha's Earth Release and Earth Spear, then used the hammer on the back of the blade to increase the force. Crack. The Earth Release and Earth Spear were shattered by Kabutawari. Finally, Ghost Lantern Manyetsu pulled out the last ninja sword hanging behind his back, the Great Sword Samahata. He held the knife in both hands and plunged it into Uchiha Ci's abdomen. One sword paralyzed, 2 swords broke the defense, 3 swords killed. Then, he pulled the knife out and threw it on the floor. Boom. Ghost Lantern Manyetsu looked down at the lifeless Uchiha Ci and said, "It's over." The water monster rose to over 30 feet and formed 2 giant hands. With one punch, it pierced the ground, smashing Uchiha Ci into the hole. Silence fell over the field. Ghost Lantern Manyetsu looked at the ground, frowning. The ground seemed too thin. This blow should have turned the kid into a meat pie. A cold voice rang out, "Since he's dead, get out of here." Terumi Mei stood at the gate of the castle, glaring at Ghost Lantern Manyetsu. "I'll take you to Yagura." Chapter 79 The Ultimate Ritual, The Gods Shed Blood. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lines blurred everything in front of him, rushing downwards. Uchiha Ci could only watch Ghost Lantern Man use combo attack, completely unable to counter. Like Shinong said, once his strategies were figured out and countered, he'd become a piece of cake. Uchiha Ci had planned to use his sharingan and reflexes to fight hand-to-hand, grab the thunder blade, and summon the thunder release Kirin for a mutual kill. Great plan. But the first step had a snag, his own intelligence gap, and those minor wins against Ghost Lantern Full Moon in the previous fights, had made him overconfident in his hand-to-hand combat abilities, but he didn't expect Ghost Lantern Full Moon's foundation to be so solid when he switched from sneak attacks to a direct assault, Ghost Lantern-style swordsmanship combined with dual wielding, delivering sharp, continuous cuts. This guy looked like an 8-armed berserker. He swung those swords like a windmill, crushing CI head-on. The dirtiest trick was the occasional water-infused punches, popping out from his shoulders or waist in a flurry of blows. He couldn't stop them, not at all. At this point, Uchiha Ci knew he'd screwed up, walking right into Ghostlight Full Moon's trap. Now, defeat and death were inevitable, with a touch of regret, like losing an after-school fight and having to go home while holding a bunch of money. He couldn't hide the grin creeping onto his face. Uchiha Ci looked at Ghost Lantern Full Moon, pulled out Samahata, and stabbed himself in the gut. Gah! He coughed up blood. The massive blade pierced his body, swung in a circle mid-air, and hurled him down. Instantly, the colossal water monster roared, formed two fists, caught Uchiha and smashed him on the ground. Boom! But instead of being turned into a meat patty with crushed bones, there was no horrific injury that even a miracle doctor couldn't cure. One punch. The floor cracked. However, the ground beneath had turned to mud. A tunnel filled with scorching liquid appeared before Uchiha Ci. Uchiha, spitting blood, his eyes widened. He craned his neck and saw Terumi Mei outside the cave, making a seal. She winked playfully. Then, Terumi Mei slammed the ground, performing Earth Release Ninjutsu, Earth Style, Earth River. The earth above the passage shifted, filling the pit created by the punch. The light above was swallowed by the surging earth, plunging everything into darkness. Deep inside the underground cave, lay a bottomless pool of blood, forests of dead bones, and a faint howl coming from the deep wind tunnel. Torches and light illuminated the underground square. Rows of crosses stood in the pool of blood, each bearing a figure tortured beyond recognition. 1, 2, 10, 100, 1,000, like a medieval cemetery, packed with crosses like tombstones. Except here, burials weren't popular. It looked like a beef jerky drying homestead. Then, a large hole opened in the ceiling of the cave. A figure plummeted down, landing headfirst into the pool of blood. Plop! A massive splash. Bleck! Uchiha emerged, frowning, grimacing. Dato Samahata had drained him dry. The forbidden technique, flesh transformation, squeezed out the last of his life force, repairing the wound in his abdomen, completing the process. The impact of the fall from a great height was ultimately absorbed by him. Now, he was in pain everywhere, ribs possibly broken. Uchiha Ci instinctively touched his stomach, shaken. Luckily, the hole made by the Samahata shark muscle had been completely repaired mid-air by the forbidden technique, flesh transformation. His six-pack abs were strong, and the feel of his muscles made Uchiha sigh. How could such a handsome young man with such a good body exist in this world? However, a resentful voice suddenly came from beside Uchiha Ci. Probably not the best time, but... Boss, can you stop admiring yourself and save me? Uchiha froze, then looked up. On a cross in front of him, Haydn, covered in blood from his disastrous dive, glared at him resentfully. The kid looked like Jesus on the cross, large black nails hammered through his palms, and as if he was going to be dishonest, they also tied him up with rope like hanging pork. Not a divine son ascending to heaven, but a tied-up slab of pork belly drying. What a coincidence! Uchiha blankly withdrew his hand, thinking, why does this guy look so different from everyone else? Haydn looked miserable, shaking, staring faintly at Uchiha Ci. Yeah, what a coincidence. I didn't even know what happened. Then I fell down a cliff. 1 minute I closed my eyes, next I was here. It's been almost a day, and there's nobody around. Just a bunch of people crying and screaming, scared the hell out of me. Uchiha Ci rolled his eyes. Without doing anything, he jumped into the boss room and jumped through a series of battles to directly enter the process of joining the evil cult, getting a promotion, a salary increase, and inheriting the assets of the cult. What kind of God-chosen son is this? Shaking his head, Uchiha picked up the ninja sword that had fallen with him. The blade was chipped and pitted, like a dog had chewed on it. but thanks to the silk thread binding it, it hadn't snapped like a samurai sword. Click. The sword struck the wooden stake, cutting Haydn's rope. The blade broke instantly. Uchiha Ci held the hilt, silent, then shrugged. It lasted dozens of blows against the Thunder Fang among the Kirigakure 7 ninja swordsmen. It did its job. The rope broke. Haydn could finally move. He looked eagerly at Uchiha Ci, pointed at his palms. "Boss, you still got those 2 big nails to pull out." Uchiha didn't rush. He looked around. Only one hole led out of the blood pool, presumably the exit, but dozens of elite cultists guarded it. Uchiha might not even break out, let alone with Haydn. After a moment, he looked up, pointed at the ceiling, and calmly told Haydn. "Haydn, there's only one way to escape." "Huh? How?" Haydn looked surprised, following Uchiha's finger. Uchiha Ci looked serious, explaining the outrageous plan. "You need to master walking on water and trees in 5 minutes, then climb out of the hole, and finally dig through about 20 feet of earth with your bare hands. That's how you get to the castle outside." Haydn was stunned. Learn to walk on water and trees in 5 minutes. Dig through solid ground with his bare hands. He's Haydn, not Superman. Wait, what kind of bullshit plan is this? Did you even plan anything to rescue me? In silence, Uchiha turned, nodding gravely like a veteran, solemnly. "Brother, just getting here was a narrow escape. How could I have time to think about that? Instead of wondering about that, what are you going to do?" "Me?" Haydn looked blankly at the hole in the ceiling, constipated. "What am I going to do?" That if he knew that, he wouldn't be in the mess he was in with Kakuzu. Learning this on the spot wasn't teaching him anything. "Great, Haydn, since you can do the long jump, how about you break the world record next? How can it be repaired?" "You are just kidding me." While Haydn's attention was focused on the hole, Uchiha, quick as lightning, shoved the hilt of the broken sword in Haydn's mouth. He stepped on the stake, grabbed the iron nail in Haydn's palm and yanked it out. "Base. You. Haydn's eyes widened, clamping down on the hilt and screaming. Before he could curse, Uchiha jammed the hilt back in, then grabbed the nail on the other hand. He only talked so much to distract Haydn, keeping him from yelling and attracting enemies. However, a broad hand suddenly grabbed Uchiha Ci's wrist from behind. Then, an indifferent voice said, "Stop." Uchiha Ci was startled, and without looking back, pulled the broken sword from Haydn's mouth and stabbed behind him, but the blow was blocked by an elbow. The attacker swung his palm. "Is this your greeting?" The voice was cold. Uchiha frowned, turning back. Rabbit kicked and eagle kicked the guy in the head. His hand swept to the ninja pouch on his waist, ready to throw shuriken, but pain shot through his body, his movements stuttering. The person behind him sneered, caught Uchiha's leg, and swung him into the blood pool. Falling from that height without using chakra to protect yourself, then trying to fight. I don't know how arrogant you have to be to do something so stupid. Plop. Gah. The blow was like hitting concrete. He coughed up blood again. He finally saw who it was, a tall man, around 6 feet 3 inches, wearing a black evil god cult robe with a hood, hiding his face. His chest was open, revealing muscles and a belt with the cult symbol, like a small mountain. He grabbed Uchiha Ci's calf, hauled him upside down and tossed him onto a nearby cross. "Throw out your hand." Bang. Bang. Click. Click. Nails were hammered into Uchiha Ci's palms, impaling his metacarpals, pinning him to the cross. Then, rope was tied around him like dead meat. The bishop of the evil god cult looked at his work, smirking. His grin widened, eyes filled with terrifying madness. "Your greeting was nice, I accepted it. Now that the stage is set, let me invite you to witness the ultimate ceremony for the birth of the evil god. The gods bleed. There's another chapter coming soon, a big 3K chapter. Chapter 80. The second sacrifice may lead to death." You are listening at novelfull.audio. After they tied Uchiha to the cross, the evil cult bishop spun around and headed to the blood pool, his hands already forming seals. "Gods are bleeding? What's that about?" Uchiha was confused. Haydn, strung up on the shelf beside him, frowned, his expression dark. This is the evil god cult's highest level ritual. It takes the torture of 100 girls and 1,000 living people, sacrificing all that pain to their god. Inflicting pain on the evil god in exchange for power. Uchiha frowned and glanced around. On the crosses nearby, people with withered faces had been tortured past the point of living, their eyes empty. It was hard to tell if they were alive or dead. That doesn't make sense. If you're sacrificing pain, how come these people are numb? Where's the pain coming from? Uchiha asked, raising an eyebrow in surprise. Can your cult even store pain? First torture, then initiation. What kind of tech is that? Hey, come on. I'm not a member of the evil god cult. Haydn said, curling his lip. The horrific scene was enough to make him quiet down. If achieving peace in the Kingdom of Rain meant this, then what was the difference between the people doing this and the ninjas from the great nations tearing the place up? Haydn looked up, frowning. Anyway, the evil god cult sacrifices just trade pain for the evil god's pleasure, then they get power in return. Uchiha stared at Haydn, his eyes saying, are you saying you don't get it? Because you seem to get it pretty well, star. What the hell is that look for? I read it in a book. Haydn yelled. What kind of book? Does the evil god cult's intro manual really spell it out that clearly? Uchiha shook his head. But if that's true, then it can only mean one thing. Uchiha's voice dropped. They've already completed one sacrifice. And we're next. They looked at each other, then at the silent, crying, wailing sacrifices on the crosses, their faces frozen in expressions of a living hell. They both went quiet. Another sacrifice, Haydn said, frowning and looking around. Other than the two of them and the bishop, there wasn't anyone else around who could make any noise. Tied to the cross, Uchiha turned to Haydn as he refined his chakra. Haydn, are you gonna start wailing? What are you talking about? Haydn glared. Just look around, Uchiha said, grinning. You don't have to guess who the sacrifice is going to be, it's gotta be us. But I'm a real ninja. A ninja who doesn't cry even if you stab him with a sword. A strong man who can handle the pain of hell. So, the pain needed for the evil god's sacrifice is probably going to come from you. Uchiha narrowed his eyes at the bishop. You ready for this? What did you say? Haydn asked, confused. Uchiha just shook his head, his eyes growing colder as he worked even harder to squeeze out a little chakra. If he was right, this would be way too cruel to Haydn. They just finished a sacrifice of thousands of people, and after that ceremony, the next one would have to be even worse, inflicting even greater pain to please the evil god. Uchiha had been wondering what kind of torture would turn Haydn into the crazy, happy guy he would be in the future. Now, with the clues coming together, the true nature of this ritual was coming into focus. This would be a sacrifice of terror and pain beyond death itself. The gods are bleeding, afraid to die. A sacrifice to get real immortality. Uchiha's only thought was, I have to put a stop to this tragedy. Rewrite the future. In the ruined castle, an old man in dark blue landed, cane in hand, scanning the wreckage of the battlefield. He frowned, disappointed. Baiju turned and sent a spore clone into the ground, watching the cave. Madara, the boy is still alive, in the cave. Want to take another look? Madara. Uchiha shook his head calmly. No need. I was surprised before, but I've figured him out. He has death in his eyes. He's fighting so hard just to die. He's figured out the truth of the world and understands the difference of reincarnation. Baiju looked confused. Isn't that a good thing? It's amazing that he thinks like you at such a young age, Madara. Madara. Uchiha shook his head, disappointed. No, it's the opposite. He understood the truth too young, at an age when he should be believing in fairy tales, but he doesn't have the power to break free of fate. All he can do is run. Until he can't run anymore. Madara frowned, the violent mood swings convincing him that this kid had the potential to unlock the forbidden eye. If he lived long enough, the kid would definitely get those eyes. But if he didn't make it that far, he'd just die, but to help him control all that, it was like trying to stop a guy who wants to die from killing himself. Too much trouble. He didn't have much time left. Sometimes, being too smart isn't a good thing, Madara Uchiha said, walking into the shadows. Ju, plant a spore on the kid. If he needs it, give him some chakra. Ju was confused, standing there in a daze. What does that mean, Madara? Saikairo stood in front of the entrance to the cave, what had been the evil god cult headquarters. Before him was a battlefield, ripped apart as if by a tornado. There were dozens of elite cult members waiting for him. Uchiha Saikairo, carrying a huge scroll, clenched his teeth, his eyes wide with anger, his body shaking. It doesn't matter, I can do this. I have the sharingan. To these eyes, these guys are just scum. He took a step forward. Then another. And another. Then he charged. The wind whipped his hair, and his timid eyes sharpened. He formed a seal, the sharingan spinning. Kill him. Cover him with ninjutsu. The cultists yelled, charging. Saikairo strode forward, opening his eyes. Fire style, great fire annihilation.